If you guys don't know who this guy is a fucking lunatic, like hyper misogynist. Women only live to suck the life out of men. He is a horrible fucking gross individual, okay?
So today is Saturday, February 26th, and it's the third day of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Now, people in the United States do not seem to understand what is going on insofar as Russia's invasion is concerned, because they keep saying that Russia is failing, which is the weirdest comment. Russia is failing because Russia hasn't taken out the infrastructure of Ukraine, hasn't hit the electrical grid, hasn't...
Well, yeah, they are failing. They thought that they were going to run in there in 24 to 48 hours, blitzkrieg the fuck out of them, shock and awe bomb them, and get all the concessions that they wanted. And they've been in Ukraine for a week now. Yes, they have failed in like spectacular ways. Does that mean that they're going to fail ultimately? Probably not. Ukraine will probably fail to defend itself ultimately because Russia has way more fucking manpower, way more fucking equipment than them. But like Russia was shown to be incredibly weak in this invasion. If they can't invade Ukraine, which has a significantly smaller and weaker military than them, right? If they're going to have their tanks on the side of the road with no fucking fuel and no fucking food for their soldiers, they fucking failed spectacularly.
Destroyed the cell phone towers or the water supply or something like that. It's just remarkable. They keep insisting that the Russians seem to advance and then retreat whenever they meet any resistance. And it's just a failure of imagination on the part of so many American commentators that they do not seem to understand what Russia is really doing with this invasion. Because you see,
they're just throwing boys into the meat grinder for the memes.
The American mode of war is to go to a country and destroy everything. Destroy the electrical grid, cell towers, the water supply system, everything. Just destroy the whole thing and then roll in. That's not fighting a war. That's just mopping up the total annihilation of a country. I mean,
they try to do, oh, hold on. No, what we do is we might hit strategic points on their fucking strategic military and infrastructure points to try and take out their capabilities to fight back, and then we'll roll in. That's what Russia tried to do and fucking failed.
The United States has done this repeatedly in Afghanistan.
If you guys can't tell, I'm a huge Ukrainian simp. I've been following this shit for way too fucking long thanks to internet gas, okay? So...
in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria, or they semi-tried to do it in Syria. I mean, it's really kind of like a despicable way of making war, right? But what are the Russians doing? Well, see, the Russians, they don't want to destroy Ukraine. No, they don't want to destroy it at all. What they want to do is they want to capture it intact, see? And
why did they, if they try to capture it intact, why did they bomb that fucking cancer ward for children?
They don't want to hurt the civilians. Dude. Why would they? From their point of view, if they harm civilians, they just create enemies. And so they want to capture Ukraine, change the political leadership of Ukraine, and install a political leadership that is sympathetic to Russia's security needs and is going to be a long-term ally. But they don't want to alienate the Ukrainian population. Because if they alienate the Ukrainian population, well, the Ukrainian population will eventually overthrow this puppet regime. And the Russians want to install a puppet regime. Let's not pretend otherwise. But they want to install a puppet regime whereby the Ukrainian citizens are more or less indifferent to it. They don't want to install a puppet regime after having made the lives of Ukrainians so miserable. So that's why they don't want to destroy Ukraine or harm the Ukrainian populace. They want to capture Ukraine intact, change the political leadership, and then let it go, of course, because they don't want to manage Ukraine. They don't want it to be a burden on them.
How many days into the invasion was this? Like 2 days into the invasion? Like this is has not aged well.
That long term. And so what are they doing? They are rapidly invading the whole country, and everybody concedes that they're moving very, very quickly. But they're not hitting any civilian infrastructure. They're only hitting military targets. And they are relentless in hitting the military targets, but always with a certain degree of caution. And I'll explain why in just a moment. But they're hitting military targets. They
children's cancer ward.
Are avoiding civilian populations and civilian infrastructure. And
children's cancer ward.
When they go to a city or a destination, when they encounter any resistance from the Ukrainian army, any serious resistance, they stop and pull back.
Because they're dying, dude. Because they're dying. Have you seen the estimated death tolls from both sides that are from non-Ukrainian or Russian sources, like they're dying. They're being shot with guns and dying, and they run away because they have to regroup because they've lost too many dudes. Like, it's pretty bad, dude. It's like they're not doing well. The cancer ward was resistance. The hospital was in the way, so it had to go. Yeah. Listen, I'm a serial pauser. I'm a serial talker to chatter. All right, but like, please tell me, have you guys seen the absolute fucking horrible shit that's being posted to Twitter about this shit? Have you seen the civilian targets that have been hit by bombs that in the aftermath of those things that are not acceptable to show on Twitch? Like, I have seen more snuff films in the past week than I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. It is unfucking believable. It's disgusting. There's like videos of a fucking bomb hitting a bakery, right? And there's no military targets anywhere nearby, right? There's like this 14-year-old girl riding her bike, and then a fucking huge missile blows up a bakery and kills the 14-year-old girl. And you can see the before, the actual strike, and the aftermath. Cat, excuse me. There's nothing in there for you. Okay, go in. Congratulations, you're now in kitty jail. Okay, I'll stream from right here.
Because what are they doing? They are encircling. That's their whole strategy. And it's very simple. And if you look at a map...
They were already encircled, bro. They were already encircled. They had the north, the east, and the south completely encircled when they invaded. They didn't have to, like, they're not having to slowly encircle these people. They were failing to take the targets that they wanted to.
You'd realize it. What the Russians are doing is that whenever they go to a major city, like Kiev, like Kharkov, and soon enough they're going to be in Dnipro, when they get to those cities, they go up to those cities, and they meet some resistance, and then they pull back. And they allow their forces to start to surround it. And that's the strategy they're employing in Kiev. That's the strategy that they're employing in Kharkov. They are encircling these cities.
It's my understanding that they still haven't encircled Kiev, right? Yeah, no. They have some roads here, some columns. They have this area right here. Oh, too far, too far. The south has been their most successful area of invasion. But, like, they haven't quite made it to Kiev. Oops.
And once they've completely encircled them, what will they do? They'll wait. That's what they'll do. See, if you surround a city, all you have to do is just wait around. Eventually it'll fall, of course. And so the Russians are systematically surrounding all of the major cities. And whenever they come across a smaller town or village, they just advance and cover it and capture it and move on and continue with their advance. Whenever they meet any kind of serious resistance, they stop, pull back, and then encircle.
Well, there's also another reason for that. And what's really funny is a lot of these fucking Russians didn't even know that they were going into a fucking war. So he doesn't look so good. Remind me after this video.
One of the things that they want to capture intact, and people don't seem to realize this, but it's very obvious if you think about it, they are trying to capture the Ukrainian army. That's not why there hasn't been any major battles with, hundreds or thousands of casualties. It's been light skirmishes. For all intents and purposes, the Russian army is tiptoeing into Ukraine.
Tiptoeing into Ukraine, fellas. For all intents and purposes, they are tiptoeing into Ukraine, fellas.
So far as air power is concerned, the Russians in the first 3 hours wiped the Ukrainian skies of everything. The Russians own the Ukrainian skies. Any plane flying is Russian. But insofar as their army is concerned, this isn't World War II. This isn't a World War II where the Russian armies were kissing cousins of the Mongol hordes, you know what I'm saying? No, this is the modern Russian army that has the goal of capturing intact Ukraine and the Ukrainian army. Because the Russians realize that once they have captured Ukraine, and change the political leadership, they will need an army to protect and look after the Ukrainian state and the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian land. They don't want to destroy the Ukrainian army.
Oh, it's just a benevolent. Oh my God, it's just a benevolent invasion
over Ukraine. Their goal is to capture Ukraine, capture the Ukrainian army with as little casualties as possible to the Ukrainian army. And that's why whenever they come up against serious Ukrainian resistance, they keep consistently pulling back. And in the West, this is interpreted as the Russians are weak, which is so weird.
Well, in the first what was it? The first 3 days of the invasion, they lost more Russian troops than we lost in 20 years in Iraq.
It's like the Russians are so weak, they're not advancing as fast. I mean, well, that is a separate issue that I'm going to get to in just a moment. But the Russians are so weak because they're not obliterating the Ukrainian army. Because that's what the Americans do. They obliterate anything that crosses their path. Friend or foe, they don't really care. But the Russians do care. That's why they're not obliterating the Ukrainian army when they could.
This is just so dumb.
A friend of mine, Alex Christoforou,
he doesn't know anything about what's going on over there, does he?
He pointed out something that I'd never considered, which is very obvious.
He doesn't know anything about like U.S. military campaigns. Hold on. Stop fucking sending me clips. I'm watching a video right now. I never ever fucking watch a video all the way through on this channel, all right? Stop fucking stun locking me.
He pointed out the fact that, you see, the current Ukrainian leadership in the military, the generals in Ukraine, they went to military academies with the generals of the Russian armies. They're drinking buddies since when they were back in like 18-year-old, 19-year-old plebes. They know each other. They don't want to kill each other. Of course not. I mean, you've got some buddy when you were drinking out when you were 18, right? You want to kill him? No, you could be on opposing sides of whatever contest, but you don't want to hurt him. Of course not. You'll be pissed off at him maybe, but you don't want to kill him. The Russian army doesn't want to destroy the Ukrainian army.
I'm so pissed off at you. You old drinking buddy, you better surrender. Like, what are you talking about? Like, if he was your drinking buddy and when you were 18 or 19 or whatever the fuck you're saying, like, why would you be holding a gun to his head, dude? Why would you? It's like saying, I'm not angry at my old drinking buddy, as you literally beat the living shit out of him, as you beat him within an inch of his life. What are you talking about?
Could have done it already in these 3 days of combat. Once the Russians owned the skies over Ukraine, they could have done whatever they wanted with the Ukrainian army. They could have annihilated it, just blown it to smithereens and blown away the entire.
Yeah, they could have nuked all of Ukraine, but they didn't.
Cause a major humanitarian crisis if they wanted to, and they obviously don't. How do I know this? Because they haven't done it. They have had the opportunity for 3 days to do it, and they haven't done it.
Amazing.
I'm doing this stupid video from a hotel
Ukraine
room
war basically just a big game of beer pong kappa.
I'm sorry, a beer pong, got it.
Uploaded to the internet. Do you think I'd be able to do it if the Russians were really serious about conquering Ukraine? They want to capture it. Understand that. And understand that you in the West, you are being goaded into thinking that Putin and the Russians are like evil Antichrist. You don't understand why.
Nobody's saying, well, hold on. I actually don't know that. I don't think most people or even most news outlets are portraying the Russian army as a bunch of like hardened thugs that want to fucking murder and rape all of the fucking Ukrainians. Like they're saying like there are a bunch of fucking 19-year-olds that don't know that they're going into a war zone, that are being shown to be like they're showing that they don't want to do this. And so a lot of them are like surrendering or like crying on video and like sending texts to their moms about how they're fucking scared to death. It's like nobody's talking shit about like the Russian people or like even like the individuals inside the Russian army. They're mostly talking shit about like the concept of the Russian army invading Ukraine and the leadership of Russia.
The Russians are invading, and your political leadership, Boris Johnson, Joe Biden, all these people, they don't want you to understand. Of course not. They want you to just demonize, just to take the easy way out. They want you to imagine that this is a Marvel comic book movie and that, you know, there are white hats and black hats, good guys and bad guys. Yeah, we gotta kill the bad guys because we're the good guys. Yeah.
Ultimately, even if we do have sympathy for the poor conscripts in the Russian army, they still are an invading force. And so ultimately, if they like invade and they get shot, I'm going to feel less bad for them than the civilians that are having their entire life upended because the Russians are invading.
It's so naive. The Russians don't want to harm Ukraine. They would have destroyed Ukraine if they wanted to, but they don't. They want to capture it in one piece. Now, you can say that Russia's motivations are this, that, the other. It doesn't matter. You have to look at the practical reality that is taking place now. What really bothers me, and perhaps this isn't a wise thing for me to say while I'm still in Ukraine under the Zelensky regime, what really bothers me is that the Zelensky regime has no trouble causing a humanitarian crisis. In fact, they welcome a humanitarian crisis. They would love to see dead Ukrainians. And I know this for a fact. And do you know how I know this for a fact? Because the Zelensky government has been handing out AK-47s willy-nilly to the civilian population. As I understand.
Because they're being invaded, bro. Yeah, they're being invaded. They're actively being put in a position that no European has been put in since the 1940s. What are you talking about? Yes, they're being invaded. If you know what, if Texas was being invaded by Mexico, I would hope that the government of Texas would hand out some fucking AK-47s, okay? If fucking Canada decided to start invading Wisconsin, I would travel up to fucking Wisconsin and I would say, give me an AK, give me something, bro, okay? I'll do some jumping jacks to show that I'm physically fit. Like, what are you talking about? Yes, they're being invaded, dude.
That they've already handed out 10,000 AK-47s and munitions to match. Now, you see, if you've never had any kind of military experience, you, with a weapon like that, you can become extremely dangerous to all the people around you and to yourself. It takes training to operate a firearm. You have to know what you're doing. It's not a casual thing, okay? It's not like...
Dude, does he think that they're just like walking like the milkman, going up? Does he think they're going like the milkman up to every door, dropping off a bouquet of fucking AKs and a little bundle of ammunition and magazines and shit, and then like fucking off? What does he think? Like, yes, they're showing them, okay, you take AK-47, put clip in, you pull this back, let go, now can shoot. In order to shoot, you press safety off and pull trigger. It's like, yeah, that's what they do. They give them some basic understanding of how the weapon works, dog.
Like in the movies. It's very, very dangerous. And you can harm yourself before you harm anybody else. And the harm you can cause others is, it's incalculable and you can't take it back. Now, the Zelensky regime is handing out these weapons, teaching people how to use Molotov cocktails, how to make Molotov cocktails and use them themselves. They want to foment the people to fight the war against the Russians. And the thing is, see, the Russians have professional soldiers. Now, these professional soldiers, they carry a weapon. They know what to do with the weapon. If they see somebody armed, be it a man in a uniform or just a civilian with an AK-47, well, they're going to shoot him, okay? And so that civilian will be dead. And that will present a great photo op now, won't it? So that Zelensky can wrangle some European...
Why does every single one of their arguments just rape apologia? Like, oh man, I know you're getting raped right now, but if you just lay back, close your eyes, and try and put yourself in a mindset where you're enjoying it, maybe it'll be okay and it'll be over soon enough. Like, what are you talking about, dude? When someone's country is being invaded by a foreign force, most of the time people don't want to fucking sit there, lie back, and take it. A lot of fucking Ukrainians hate the Russian government.
Country or the Americans or whomever to come in and get involved in this war.
There was this whole thing back in the the early 1900s where there was this like mass starvation in Ukraine called the Holodomor, which really did not engender positive feelings towards the Russians, okay?
And potentially escalate the situation to levels that are unimaginable. The Zelensky regime is doing something frankly evil, because it is evil to encourage civilians to do something that incredibly dangerous and irresponsible. The Zelensky regime has also put heavy weaponry in civilian population centers. Now, these heavy weapons, howitzers and whatnot, they're dangerous. And so the Russian army has every right and obligation to destroy such heavy weapons. But of course, when trying to destroy such weapons, it's inevitable that you're not going to quite hit the weapons when you try to aim for them. You're going to hit around the weapons. And therefore, if these weapons are in the middle of apartment complexes, you're going to have Russians shelling apartment complexes, killing innocent civilians. The Zelensky regime is putting these weapons in the middle of populated areas precisely because they want to have this happen.
I think the only reason that they have their militaries inside of the cities is because otherwise they're just going to be out in an open plain, and there's no way to defend their country out in an open plain. Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe. It's this giant open plain, which is why Russia wants it so much, because that open plain closes in the with mountains on the western side, I think. Right? They want to be able to like funnel people. That's the reason why the Soviet Union wanted them so much, because of the geography. There's this giant open landscape in Russia and Ukraine, and they want to like narrow the gap where people can invade them from the west.
I'll tell you something else that the Zelensky regime is doing. They are forcibly conscripting men between the ages of 18 and 60.
Oh shit. Oh goddamn. kind of like Russia also does with the soldiers that they're sending in, except they don't even get to have they don't even have the decency to tell them that they're putting them into a fucking war zone. Yeah, dude, I don't know.
You leave the country, and if they try to leave the country, they are arrested and forcibly conscripted. That is, forcibly put into the Ukrainian army. Now, what has happened because of this? Well, just about every man between the ages of 18 and 60 is running away from the cities. That's why there are so many refugees. It's not that they're seriously thinking that the Russians are going to shell and destroy their apartments or their homes or whatnot. They're afraid of getting arrested and forcibly conscripted. The women and the young children and old men are having to hide these men who are between the ages of 18 and 60. And by the way, this isn't something that I heard. People that I know personally, people that I do business with, I know them. I've gone drinking with them, eating with them, doing deals with them. They've had to leave Kiev for fear of being forcibly pressed into the Ukrainian army. Middle-aged men, farts like me, who are out of shape, we're real good at some business deal, but crappy at carrying a backpack and a weapon, with no experience whatsoever in such activity. And the Ukrainian government, the Zelensky regime, is doing this.
I don't know how prevalent people trying to avoid the conscription is, right? I don't understand. Like, I don't like forced conscription. I understand it in dire need, but I don't like it, right? I understand people trying to get away from it, but that doesn't mean that it's like unbelievably like a humanitarian crisis that they're doing it.
And why do you think they're doing it? Well, first of all, you don't forcibly conscript men into your army if you think that you're winning. Now, do you? Of course not.
Russia.
Number one. And number two, by having this forcible conscription, you scare all the men and you create, all on your own, a whole class of refugees, of people fleeing the cities. They're not afraid of the Russians. They're afraid of the Ukrainian regime that is trying.
Why didn't they run before the Russians invaded? Why is it that they're just now running? If they're so fucking upset about the Ukrainian regime, why are they running now after the Russians invaded? It seems like there was one very specific event that kind of led people to try and run away from all the cities, right? Everyone thought that Russia probably isn't going to invade. They're not going to fucking do it. And then when they invade, they were like, oh, fuck, I'm out of here, bro.
To press them into service. That's what's going on. And so you see all the video images of people fleeing the city, and you in the West, you in the United States and Western Europe think, oh, they're afraid of the Russians. No, they're afraid of the Zelensky regime. But I have to say that the issue of handing out weapons.
Doesn't the Zelensky regime have like a pretty positive approval rating
to civilians who don't know how to handle them? And that is the thing I find most despicable, because they are willing to have these poor civilians who know nothing of weaponry become martyrs. Because the Russian soldiers who see some civilian with a gun, well, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to shoot him. And that innocent civilian who doesn't even know how to hold the damn weapon is going to die needlessly for nothing, for absolutely nothing. And I find that despicable. I find that truly evil. Also, the Zelensky regime can get a nice photo op. That's what's going on. And if you want to say that the message I'm saying is pro-Russian or pro-Putin or I'm a Putin stooge or useful idiot or whatever, fine. I don't care. I mean, I don't really care your opinion, man. I don't give a fuck what you think about me. I'm telling you the truth. I'm here. I'm here in Kiev.
This guy does care about your opinion of him. He is one of those people that is so unbelievably like insecure. Even at his old age, he's so unbelievably insecure. That's why he only talks about fucking young women. That's the majority of his channel, is just talking about how good he is at fucking women. It's unbelievably cringe.
In the downtown, waiting for the Russians to invade the damn place, huh? So I know what I'm talking about. None of this stuff is appearing in the mainstream media now, is it? Huh? Because I'm not following the American or European mainstream media because I know it's just a pack of lies. But probably what I'm saying in this video, you haven't heard it. Well, now you're hearing it.
What about the Russian mainstream media? You've been following
in this channel. What have I always told you, stupid motherfuckers? Huh? Think for yourself. Think. Look at the information that you have available, and ask yourself why something is happening the way it's happening. It's not arbitrary. It's not by chance. People have thought through what they are doing. The Russians have certainly thought through what they're doing. The best that we can hope for is that the Zelensky regime fails in its attempt to wrangle in the Europeans and the Americans into this war, and the Zelensky regime collapses or flees or whatever. And
I don't know about like wrangling anybody in, but
Russia is able to take Ukraine in one piece without harming too many people, and that's the best that we can hope for. Or if not, the whole country will be destroyed. Millions of people will be displaced, hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions killed. And this is the exact same thing that happened in Iraq. Let's hope that we don't have a second Iraq.
Couldn't even cut off the end of that video. What an absolute fucking lunatic. Literally. The thing that gets really boring about watching these videos, and I'm sorry, I had to turn off chat because I was getting stun locked too much. The thing that really gets me about these videos is that they don't bring up new shit. It's all the exact same talking points. And all of those talking points have very easy refutations. Usually when you have a group of people that have a completely untenable position, they'll try to weasel around and find new arguments for what they're doing, but they haven't been doing it fast enough, you know? So I don't know, like it gets boring after a while watching their videos. It's almost more entertaining to just like sit here and look at this live map update, because at least this will eventually give us new information, you know? This will give us new information.